Welcome everybody to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm your host, Kevin McPherson. It is a Friday afternoon. We're about to dip into a full football weekend, but it's basketball season too. Let's not lose sight of that. And we got plenty to talk about daily. Yeah, I had a little hiatus for a few days. We jumped on yesterday for a nice lengthy recruiting update. We got into some of the business of the current basketball team as well. SEC Media Days, AP poll, SEC projections by the league's media. We got into a good amount of stuff on Thursday in our return here to HogvilleNET. Now, that was not a live, it was recorded second. Today, we're jumping on live, and we'll call it some recruiting intel, actually, because I've got a couple of updates for you. They're nothing earth shattering, but they are updates that are still relevant and they matter. Welcome back, Kevin. Glad you are feeling better. Thank you. I'm still no better vision wise. Is that Kevin? Kevin, I think I saw Kevin in there. I could be wrong about that, but thank you for the comment. Feeling better. Still got the doc appointment Monday. I'm going to just hang in and deal with that. I'm still got a hearing deficit for now in my left ear, but I'm doing better with the head cold stuff, the bronchitis, and the chest stuff. So let's just move on from that yucky stuff and let's talk hoops. So we're not going to be on as long as we were yesterday, but we got some relevant updates today. List came out, Final Four list for the Ratliff twins, the 7-footers at Archbishop Stepanak High School in West Plains, New York. We know Arkansas coaches, 4 coaches in total, including John Calipari, the head hog, spent a good amount of time beginning early September when the recruiting period opened up, out to see those guys. It's a lot of travel back and forth, and eventually Calipari, the last time Arkansas was out there, and again, this is like 4 consecutive weeks of kind of crisscrossing that track out to New York City area. Calipari extends the scholarship offer, so that's always significant, especially when you see that much foot traffic out to see players, and then you extend the offer. The next thing is you're setting up visits, and we talked about it at the time. Yeah, they're working on that. That's in process. And then the last several reports we've given spanning the last 2 weeks, in fact, have come out of Stepanak, and a source they're telling me, look, it has been radio silence. It's been crickets with Arkansas coaches and the Ratliff twins. And so today, the Ratliff twins released their Final Four, and it's not a surprise. We talked about the teams that have been prioritizing: Alabama, where they've already visited; Southern California, Eric Patrick Musselman, EPM had him out just recently, the most recent visit that they've taken. Texas is a team that had offers out to them in addition to USC and Alabama before Arkansas and Calipari did. And then Arkansas has made this Final Four list as well. So it's very interesting. I circled back to the folks at Stepanak and saying, hey, list is out. Anything changed? Is it status quo here with what we've been told recently? And I got a one-word answer: crickets. Once again, so that's a reflection of commentary on Arkansas's involvement. And now it's been at least 2 weeks, if not in excess of 2 weeks, since Arkansas's made contact. And I've said, based on how this is playing out there, it means most likely that Calipari feels really good about where he sits with one or both of Irfan Diane, who we're going to talk about in a second, and Baba Aladdin, who we're also going to talk about in a second. Not the same exactly positionally, but they're part of your front line process, your recruiting process, and especially as much time as you've spent recruiting front line in this high school class. It's been all guards and wings so far for Calipari in his primary high school recruiting, not the secondary later in the spring, adding a couple of big bodies, but the ones you're really going out and targeting. He's put a lot of effort and time, including the Ratliff twins. So I said the most likely thing is Calipari and the staff feel really good where they sit with either Irfan Diane or Baba Aladdin, or both. Again, Diane more of a center, Aladdin a stretch 4, but again, part of your frontline recruiting either way. And so I said that's the most likely thing, or you hope you're in a great shape with both. We know Arkansas's right there. It kind of been a 50-50 thing. The last report I gave yesterday from a source on the NBA level saying, look, I think it's a coin toss, so effectively co-leaders, Arkansas and Houston, for Diane, and then Baba Aladdin. We've said, Arkansas, Calipari's been pursuing him for quite a while, even before he reclassed it from 27 to 26. Calipari knew that was coming and was prioritizing him based on the idea that he would have him for this recruiting class if he could win that recruiting battle. So we're going to talk about both of those players next. And then I said kind of the third lane or the third option here is that Arkansas just took a break from talking to the Ratliff twins and they're going to get back in the mix here. Well, as every day goes by and it's crickets, that just doesn't seem likely. And it's not unusual for players to include a team or two that's all in their finals list that maybe really aren't still in it. We see it all the time. We've seen players include Arkansas. Chase Foster had Arkansas on his finals list, never took a visit here in Arkansas, moved on. And he committed to Pitt. These things happen all the time. And so, it's not a surprise that to see Arkansas on the list, especially with the recruiting activity and interest that Arkansas was showing just very recently, especially given that they made scholarship offers to both Adonis and Darius. Darius more of a 5, Adonis more of a stretch 4. So you can play both of those guys together. What's curious here is you cannot 100% rule out that Arkansas would circle back and try to get back in the mix here. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think this late in the game, we're now less than a month from the start of the week long. It's only last a week, the early signing period, November 12th through the 19th. So we're inside of a month now in terms of when that begins, and you've spent the last 2 weeks with no contact on players that are taking visits. You don't have a visit set up. So the only thing I can think of is there a point in time where Calipari jumps back in here? I can't, again, 100% rule it out. And I've said this recently, I'm saying it again. It's probably the third on the list of what's likely going on here, and a distant third, right? It just almost seems like that one's over and out. Erfan Diane, we know, again, the reporting has been that Arkansas is right there. The most recent source information, again, shared yesterday, maybe a co-leader or a coin toss between Arkansas and Houston. Houston still has an upcoming official visit, not this weekend, the following weekend. But this weekend, Diane has an official visit to Indiana. And if you've been looking on social media and been checking out, well, I don't see anything. Did he arrive? Is that, how it is this time of year, or any time in the recruiting process, but especially the later you get in the process for visits and closer to the signing period, you'll see players sometimes bail out on the visits they had scheduled. And we really know it's been mostly Houston, Arkansas, maybe Kentucky in that third slot. But he took a recent visit to Virginia, and Indiana's been one that's been on the books for a while. Well, his guardian, Alex Victor, told me, in fact, they are taking the Indiana visit this weekend, and they are due to arrive tonight. So sometime later tonight, we started here at 3:15 Central Time. So later in the day, in the evening sometime, they're expected to arrive for that visit to Indiana. And we'll see if the head football coach is part of the recruitment with what they've got things going in football right now to try to persuade Erfan Diane and his camp, whoever's along with him for the visit, with the Hoosiers this weekend. And again, next weekend, October 24th to the 26th, that's the big OV date to Houston. Again, his guardian, Alex Victor, had told me recently, we've talked about it on these segments very recently, that there are still some big questions remaining in terms of what Houston needs to answer, despite being the perceived leader, and Victor saying, yeah, they're the leader. He's told me that at least a couple of times, and very recently reminded me of that. But it to me sounds like it. Again, when you've got some big stuff that needs to be addressed, that's probably NIL there. And at the end of the day, I always say, NIL and money talk, and the rest of it takes the bus. Calipari's got a different perspective in his recruitment, but it's not like Arkansas hasn't come correct with NIL for every single priority recruit, including Erfan Diane. And I think that makes it interesting with Houston, and probably more than just that. But we'll see. Again, we're going to find out soon enough. He's not canceling visits. Again, if he's due to arrive tonight in Indiana, you got to feel pretty good that he's going to go ahead and consummate that Houston visit in a week's time. By the way, Arkansas is not sitting around the weekend of October 24th to 27th. A lot going on. We're going to talk about the team and the exhibition game that plays out that night at Bud Walton Arena against Cincinnati here in a little bit. but that's also the planned visit weekend, official visit weekend for Baba Aladdin, former number one player in the class of 2027, reclassed after Nike Peach Jam. When we knew we were getting word that that was probably going to happen, Calipari knew about it much longer than how it kind of played out for everybody publicly. And I don't know how many coaches that were recruiting him knew it in advance and at the same level that Calipari did. And so he was prioritizing him a bit differently than probably most, or envisioned, thinking it would be the next class. And he's still a top 10 rated 5-star stretch four, still part of your frontline recruiting in this class of 2026. Coming in for that official visit again, October 24th through the 26th. He'll be able to attend and will attend, I'm told, Arkansas's exhibition game Friday night against Cincinnati. So he's due in time to be there. We'll see. Obviously, the football Hogs are hosting Auburn on Saturday, the 25th. So he'll be. I'm told he will also be there for at least part of that game and get to see again that fan atmosphere both Friday night for basketball, Saturday for football. Kevin, do you think Seeley can start at point guard next season? I don't know if I'll go there. That's an interesting question because who does Arkansas retain off of this current roster, and who they really haven't answered a point guard question in this high school class, which is what Calipari's done in his previous two classes, his first two at Arkansas with Boogie Flynn and Darius Acuff Jr. And of the guys that they're really pursuing still here and may have to wait till the spring when you look at backcourt. Thank you for the question. Most of those guys are kind of combo guards, and so it's still unclear if any of those, Jordan Smith Jr., Caleb Holt, Brandon McCoy Jr., would play significant minutes as your lead guard. Very well could. And then you start asking yourself, does Seeley have the chops to do that? Certainly in high school he did. And so that's a great question, and we'll think about that and probably visit that a little bit later down the road. Now, I did a little preview segment about 2 hours before I came on, 4-minute segment that I put out on YouTube, and I asked for folks to put in the comments any questions they have. So since we just talked about Erfan Diane, Baba Aladdin, and I just brought up Brandon McCoy Jr.'s name and the fact that he and Hull and Jordan Smith Jr., you may have to wait till the spring on all three of those to get an answer. You're hoping to fast track that and get it done early. But for now, that's kind of what it's looking like. But one question I had, and this came from Bobby Andrews, so thank you, Bobby, for the question. It is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do I see things with Arkansas and Diane and Brandon McCoy Jr.? Okay, so I was doing the scale of 1 to 10s for the longest time, and I kind of shut that down because what's remaining here, at least half of the 6 priority targets, or excuse me, 4 of the 6, Mika Murnin, another frontline 6'10 combo forward, top 10 rated 5-star. You can probably have to wait to the spring to find anything out about what he might do college-wise, or if he's going to stick with pro ball in Europe and just wait till he's eligible for the next draft, for the first opportunity to be in the NBA draft. And then those 3 combo guards, the only 2 that you're hoping to get some answers on, and should with Erfan Diane, the plan there is he's going to announce his commitment on his birthday, which is November 19th. It's the final day of that week-long early signing period. And then Baba Aladdin, you're trying to get that one sewn up if you can. Maryland, the home state school, is the perceived leader. He's also visited Virginia Tech and Georgetown, which is, close to home as well. So we'll see about those 2. But I kind of shut down the one scale of 1 to 10 for the field because I just don't want to keep doing that for months waiting through the spring. But it's a fair question. Let's answer that today. Thank you, Bobby Andrews, again for the question. Scale of 1 to 10 with Erfan Diane. Again, my most recent source information said it's a coin toss. I've never been able to put Arkansas in the lead. So instead of doing a scale of 1 to 10 confidence in Calipari ability to close on it, let's just shift it to straight up on a scale of 1 to 10. What do I think the odds are for Arkansas to land this player? I'm going to go right down the middle. I'm going to say it's a 5. I've never been able to say on my own that Arkansas, based on everything, is the leader. It's been mostly perceived Houston, with the Guardian saying it's Houston. Arkansas, it's closer and closer, and I've got a source now, again, connect with NBA. We talked about it yesterday, called it 50-50, so that's where I'm going. Middle of the road, 5. Brandon McCoy Jr., my same source. says that Arkansas is the leader there with Michigan and Alabama next up. He just most recently visited those two. The Arkansas visit was early September for Brandon McCoy Jr., the top 5-rated 5-star combo guard out of Sierra Canyon in Los Angeles. And my own information leading up to that most recent source info is that I still think Arkansas is the leader, and I've not been able to measure. They have a big lead? Is it just just a small granular thing? And NIL, that might just push somebody over the top to a place Calipari's not willing to go to. All that's possible, but I think Arkansas is the leader. Again, my most recent source update says they think he sees Arkansas as the leader. So on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, maybe with a long way to go to the spring, with that in mind, I'm going to put it at a 6. If I thought it was going to get done early, based on what I see right now, I'd probably be a little more bullish and go 7.5 Arkansas. But right now, I think I think it's more likely spring until something changes, and then we'll circle back on that and look at it again. So right now, I've got it as a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. That McCoy to Arkansas. Thank you for the question. I've got another question that another poster or another comment that was provided asked when I talk more about the team and what's upcoming. All right, we're over 15 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live Friday afternoon segment. Glad you could be here. So those are the updates on recruiting. We're really laser focused on Erfan Diane, what's going on there. Baba Aladdin, what's going on there. The Ratliff twins, does Arkansas circle back at this point? I just don't see that based on what I've observed, covering recruiting for all these years. When you back away from players this late with the early period coming up, that's usually a sign that you've moved on, but can't rule it out. And Arkansas again made the Final Four. Let's shift gears. My starting 5, Arkansas is going to play Cincinnati in a week from today. We know they've been doing the fan-friendly, glorified practice. You had 40 minutes of scrimmage work in Hot Springs on Sunday. I was there for both the glorified practice, I'll call it. I won't call it a scrimmage. I guess it was it last 2 weeks now from today. That was the prime time at the Palace. 8 minutes of no defense. I really enjoyed the pro day that was televised on FanDuel. We saw a lot more competitive stuff in there. Not really a game atmosphere, but you did see 4-on-4, 5-on-5. But then the 40 minutes of scrimmaging this past Sunday in Hot Springs showed me a lot more in terms of player combinations that make sense to me. I haven't budged on who I see as the starting 5, but now you're going to play other teams, and everybody's on the same bench now for the Razorbacks. And you really start to get an idea of what's Calipari's vision. I've said forever, I see a top 8 rotation with starter value just about anywhere in Division I basketball, high major basketball. Arkansas could go 9 deep with Isaiah Seeley, who we just talked about, and we'll see what kind of role and how much he plays early, by midseason, when we're getting closer to the end. Because last year Arkansas did go 9 deep. When you looked at Billy Richmond III kind of as your 9th man, then you had attrition, and that rotation got smaller and smaller by default. You couldn't help it. And it was a different dynamic. This time around, you hope to stay healthy, and then you wonder, is Seeley a guy that's ready? I think in some ways he's ready, and I think in other ways he's in that 9 spot, and we'll see what the minutes look like. We'll see how consistent it is. But a starting 5 for Cincinnati, for me, the 4 that I've said consistently throughout when the team got together in June, I see Darius Acuff Jr., the true freshman guard, starting games at the 1, DJ Wagner in the backcourt with him as a combo. Now, for whatever stretch of minutes these guys play together, it doesn't mean that only Acuff ever brings the ball up. There are scenarios, especially off defensive rebounds, different kind of plays or sets or things you want to look at, where both of them can be on the court together, and they both split the duties a little bit while they're on the court together. Certainly when one of those guys is out and the other one's on the court, they should be at that point the primary handler for just about every possession while the other one's out. If that's clear as mud, you're welcome. So Acuff and DJ in the starting lineup together. Carter Knox, no-brainer at the 3. Trevor Brazile, no-brainer at the 4. And for me, my starting 5 going into preseason, I'm going to go with defense and the versatility on that front line of Nick Pringle. He's physical. He's a guy that's going to, set a tone with that physicality. That was a problem for Arkansas last year, especially with Jonas Adu, probably the most physical, true 4-5. I mean, you had, Adu Thero is probably your bully ball guy, small ball, 3-4 combo, slotted at the 4 mostly, wasn't a post present. He was a guy that, got the ball and worked his way in from free throw line extended, trying to bully his way to the basket. Not a post up guy at all. So Jonas Adu, you lost him. And I think Pringle's probably defensively your best bet as a 5. So if you want to start off making a statement in a game and establishing defense first, I'm going Nick Pringle. And I think DJ Wagner and Carter Knox both are going to check boxes defensively for Arkansas. And now you have an anchor, backcourt, wing, and front court defensively. Trevor Brazile and Acuff will help you offensively. I think Brazile remains a work in progress to where you want him to be defensively, but he is so much more locked in, engaged, able to deal with physicality and play against physicality. It's something he backed down from so much in his career, and I think now, even though he's not a physical player by nature, he deals better with physicality. He's stronger, he's bigger. You can see that, and then you watch him play, and you understand he's got that confidence to play through it. And so that's my starting 5. Now, somebody, if someone says, hey, you know what, Malik Ewan should start at the 5. Better offensive player. Arkansas has question marks as a 3-point shooting team. You don't want to get a slow start to a game offensively. And if you make that case, I'm okay with that too. And we're going to talk at the end here about something Calipari has said a couple of times in the past week. We're going to get to that and how it relates to maybe Ewan being the nod at the 5 to start games. But for me against Cincinnati, again, I'm going Pringle with the rest of the 4 that I said. Obviously, Malik Thomas playing off the bench, keeping an eye on him against a real opponent now. How streaky is he? What does he do in terms of taking care of the basketball? Not over dribbling, not overthinking, taking good shots that are there for him without having to create too much, trusting the ball movement and trusting himself to take the first good shot that's there and not try to get closer by dribbling too much and impacting the spacing, impacting the flow, those kinds of things. But I think Malik Thomas, obviously off the bench for me to begin games, and he's in for either Acuff or DJ Wagner. And the timing of that, is he a guy that's coming in after the first time out? How soon is that? Before the first time out? Some of that will be dictated by foul trouble or someone just stinking up the place with turnovers. I think DJ is maybe, in my opinion, the most likely to stay in the game through a first time out substitution in that backcourt just because of all of his experience. And I think Arkansas is going to need him on the court, especially early defensively in games. And so, I might lean toward the idea that Thomas checks in for Acuff before DJ on first night. We'll see. I could be wrong about that. It's my first inclination. Billy Richmond III, I think, because we're going to see him at times as your third ball handler and playing on the ball some. Calipari's just infatuated with that notion. We saw it in the 40-minute scrimmage work on Sunday in Hot Springs. I think you're going to see him, though, initially check in for Knox. I think typically that he's more so a wing, obviously, and so he comes in. I think it's probably Knox. Or if Calipari says, look, I want to throw the kitchen sink with all my retention at the first play stoppage, then you would do something like that. Keep DJ in the game, keep Knox in the game, keep Brazile in the game, and roll with one of those other big men, and Acuff comes out for Billy. You could do that. That's just another way to mix and match that. Whichever of the 2 5s, Pringle or Ewan, doesn't start is obviously going to be the one that checks in later. And I think you could play that either way. You don't have to necessarily sub one for the other. You could bring Brazile out. One of the things we've noticed about Brazile, even when he was playing much better and was lights out those last 9 games, he still had games where he got in early foul trouble and had to sit most of first half. So let's say you're going into that under 4-minute timeout and TB's already got a foul. You might think, okay, let's buy him some time. Let's bring in Ewan for him. Ewan offensively can play the 4. He can stretch the floor like TB can. He can shoot threes. Nick can defend fours because of his defensive versatility and his good footwork, and you can make that work. And it's going to come up to this question that someone posed in that preview segment I did a little earlier, and I'm going to cite that question to help answer what we're kind of talking about now. So that's how I see the rotations, off the bench based on how I would start the first five for this first exhibition game against Cincinnati. So the question I got from Joe CM2CF, that's what it is, Joe-CM2CF. He asked me, who is the go-to second in the four position behind TB? So who are you going to play the four? Who's your backup there? I just went through what one way to do it is, because I think you can get away with Ewan and Pringle on the court together because of the different things they bring in different elements. I think you'll see also some small ball lineups where a guy like Carter Knox, because of how strong he is, he's sturdy. Now, he got exposed some in small ball four opportunities last year as a true freshman, trying to defend fours for extended periods of time. But he's stronger now. He understands the game better. He's someone that has improved. And I think we'll see Arkansas try to use to its own advantage the mismatch, even if it costs them a little bit defensively at times. I don't know how long and for how long a stretch they would go if it's an eyesore defensively, but I think Carter Knox as a small ball four is probably your other option there. So that's my answer to that question. Thank you for the questions, by the way, Bobby Andrews and Joe CM2CF. I don't know what, there's probably some embedded code there. Not sure what it means. But go back to the starters, back to the rotation. It is what I've said it is, and that's my opinion. It doesn't mean it's going to shake out that way. But I'm really interested to see, obviously, Acuff and DJ on the court together. Do they complement each other? Is there really good chemistry there? Is it awkward like it was with Boogie Flan and DJ? I think there's an opportunity for these guys to prove that it's not. And I think one of those is the fact that DJ's a year older. He's probably learned a lot in terms of, not necessarily reflection, but just film study and improving his game. And I think he's going to be a calming force regardless if he's playing mostly on the ball while he's on the court with Acuff, or he's deferring to Acuff and it's mostly Acuff when they're on the court together. And certainly when Acuff's off the floor, I think DJ is going to have those reins, and I think he's going to play a ton of minutes. I think both of those guys could end up being 1-2 your leaders in minutes on this team. Knox I'd put up there too if I were trying to call it, is who's going to be your leader in minutes. And then typically I do think DJ is going to be better suited to deal with jumping back, roll from off the ball to on the ball than he was a year ago. I don't lay all of the problems Arkansas had on Boogie Flan, and I don't think it was just DJ to save the day. I think it was a shift in positions for several players. When DJ went to the one, Boogie was out, Nelly from the 3 to the 2, Knox not looking over his shoulder at Nelly at the 3, getting better as the season moved on, especially midway point. A lot of things fell into place and players into their wheelhouse in terms of their positions, not just about putting a spotlight on who was better as the one. I think it was a domino effect of several positions, and everybody got a little more comfortable. This time around, I think DJ will complement. I think when he's not on the ball, we'll see. Proof will be in the pudding. Let's see how Malik Thomas does playing with those guys. I saw a lot of sets that Calipari ran through Malik Thomas in two-man game as an offense initiator in the practice we were in July. I saw more of that in the last several events that we got to see at different times in drill work during Pro Day. So we'll see if there's any on the ball with Malik and how that looks with guys like DJ and Acuff, playing off the ball for a little bit. These combinations, again, Billy Richmond III is going to get opportunities playing on the ball. I think Carter Knox, he fits like a glove with just about any lineup and any personnel package you have, because he's not a ball demander. He is not a ball dominant player. He really figured out less is more in terms of getting his spots. He's not one of those dribble shot creation kind of guys to begin with. And that's okay. The guy knows what the strengths are to his game. He can add some nuance to that and try to cobble together more. But what he does really well right now is that rip to drive, that rip through to drive, get to the rim, get into bodies, create that contact, try to get finished with an and one. If you don't score, get the foul call. You hope you do and get shoot free throws. Was a good free throw shooter for Arkansas last year, and then a very opportunistic. Got to a point where he was really smart on the 3-point shots. The shot selection was good. Less is more. Didn't need the dribble or think about it, hesitation. I really did a good job, I thought, in his 3 game. And I think Brazil also complements just about any lineup because he can play the 4 or the 5. He can stretch the floor with the 3. He's going to finish in transition. He's not really a back to the basket guy, but he's got opportunities playing off the ball, whether he's set up for a 3 off good ball movement, or then he makes that baseline cut off a drive, and now he's into that dunker spot, and you're throwing a lob to him or a quick pass, and he's able to finish with a dunk. And I think he's more confident because he's willing to take on contact. He's a good enough ball handler. Well, he can drive in a little bit, facing up and get a step on some folks. We saw it in the scrimmage. He did it multiple times. You've seen him really trying to add that drive game. He's no Carter Knox, but he's in terms of, just kind of pushing bodies out of the way along the way. Guys like DJ Wagner using his physicality as a driver. Darius Acuff using physicality at 6'2", 6'3" as a driver. Well, Trevor Brazil's added more of that to his game. So I think there's a lot of possibilities with the lineups. But one thing, and we're going to leave with this, we're 31 minutes in. Calipari has said twice now. I did not bring this up yesterday, so I saved it for today. Because we talked about how at media days, Calipari kind of pumped the brakes on all the positivity and started throwing a little bit of shade to get his guys' attention. Hey, you guys aren't world beaters. Everybody's talking you up. Yeah, I've talked you up all summer. I've got this chance this could be a special team. I scheduled a tough schedule because this guys can handle it. I implemented more in June and July than I did a year ago because I'm ready to see what all this looks like and start putting it all together now. Guys are ready for prime time. All that stuff. Then he pumped the brakes. Said the scrimmage was, a rung above a debacle, called out rebounding issues, questions about the front line, several things. We talked a little bit about some more things that I noticed from the scrimmage. What I didn't bring up is something that he has said now twice. He said it at SEC Media Days, and he said it on Pro Day. I don't know if you remember him saying it on Pro Day, but when I did my post-Pro Day show, I brought it up as one of the things that caught my attention. One of the first things that he said was, if you don't have a low post game, and someone you can throw the ball to down low to get you a bucket, especially late in games, if you don't have a low post game, you are a fraud. And we know Calipari's not a 5-out kind of space the floor with 5 out and load up on 2 or 3 mad bombers from 3. He doesn't play that way. It's still a dribble drive motion offense. He still likes the slash and burn game. He still likes the mid-range game. He talks about these things. Well, he wants some level of ability to throw the ball in the post. And one of the things that really hurt Arkansas last year, they didn't have that. Big Z was not that. He was a perimeter big 7'2" guy, a 3-point shooter. A guy you could run 2-man through. He was a good passer too out of that. When he did get inside, he got pushed around. He finished off some lob dunks and he had some decent low post moves. But he got, he got disembarked, he got moved around so much and he wasn't physical enough to really play that game. And it wasn't until Adu got healthy and toward the end of the year, and you saw Arkansas did go to him, especially in the NCAA tournament. Remember how, he cooked Hunter Dickinson. Arkansas kept going to him, and if he couldn't get close to the basket, he was getting in that little 8 to 12 foot face-up shot there in the paint. And so this is what Calipari's talking about. If you don't have a low post game, you're a fraud. What's interesting is if you went back to Pro Day, when he said that the first time that we heard it, he'd also said while he was talking during the event, it was like an hour and a half to 2 hours long, that they really hadn't worked on low post stuff yet. And if you watch the drills, they were bringing their bigs out, playing through them at the mid post or the high post. And when they threw into the mid post, they weren't doing drop steps or trying to turn into the middle. It was all to set up action on the perimeter. So it was just a set to keep everything back on the perimeter. And then they would slide and roll off those screens into the free throw line extended, maybe the nail, maybe the horns area. They weren't trying to play low. So we really haven't seen it. And we didn't really see that in the scrimmage work either. You didn't see a real post effort in terms of that. Now, personnel wise, it's not Trevor Brazil's game. I'll be surprised if he is Arkansas's go-to in the post to establish a low post game so that the Razorbacks aren't a fraud. You think a guy like Nick Pringle might be the answer there. He's physical. He does most of his work around the basket offensively. He hits that offensive glass, defensive glass, offensive glass, but he's, an interior guy. But, he's not really a creative shot, even in a low post scenario where he's got his back to the basket, got someone on his back or pinned on his hip with a bunch of craft once you throw it to him. I'm not saying that they won't try that. They haven't worked on that. If you listen to Calipari going back to June, he said we've spent a lot of time encouraging Nick to take shots around the basket, not just be a putback specialist or a lob threat. They've worked on it, but that doesn't mean this far in his career that he's not somewhat still who he is. And I think the one guy, if you're looking at a low post game that you're going to have to work that with, probably your best bet's Malik Ewan. And he's a guy that's got a ton of craft with the basketball, including playing with his back to the basket, because he's got a bunch of moves. We saw that, I think it was prime time at the Palace, when he posted up on the left. They did run a play where he posted up. I think it was the left low block. He got a pass, spun to his right, and just blew up the defender, got to the baseline. Help came and took away just the easy dunk or layup after the spin. And so he went ahead and did a reverse layup that was a thing of beauty. Might have been the play of that night in terms of, there was a little defensive effort on that. I think that was the prime time at the Palace. Now it's all jumbling. No, it might have been the pro day. It might have been, I think that was actually pro day. Either way, it was that weekend. But I think he's your best bet in terms of low post offense. You don't have to just throw it into him either. You could do the same, just like we saw in the drill work where they're running the high action. If he gets the ball, he can back, and he handles the ball really well. He can back his man down. He can face up and dribble at his man and then get to a point where he needs to back him down because there's traffic. He's very crafty, so you can dump it into him as a post up or let him work his way down in the post. Kind of a la what we saw last year, name escapes me, Janai Broom at Auburn. How versatile he was as a post player because he could dribble his way down into the block, or you could throw it into him. I'm not saying he's going to be a first-team All-American and the SEC Player of the Year. What I am saying is he's got a lot of the traits that you want in a big man, especially this day and age, because he can step out and knock down the three, makes him a threat. You have to account for that. He can pass, really good passer. And again, the handles, you can trust him a little bit to figure out where the shot is. But if you want a low post game, I think he's probably your best bet in terms of developing that. And then we'll see how much Arkansas utilizes that in this exhibition game against Cincinnati. All right, we're nearly 38 minutes in. I'm going to wrap it up. I wanted this to be a more abbreviated segment. It's impossible for me. I get carried away with it. I love talking hoops. Thanks again for the questions. I am absolutely finishing up and going to have a preseason SEC power rankings likely to post either Saturday. I know the football Hogs are doing their thing home against A&M, Texas A&M. That's a big one. First home game for Bobby Petrino as head coach since the run 2008 to 2011, right? Or it'll come out Sunday, the power rankings. But until next time, if something breaks and we got to come live, we will. But until the next time, thanks for being here. Be great in all your endeavors. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.